What's up, MMA fans? Finally back to do the final version, or sorry, part 8 of the 2013 MMA Prospects series. Long time coming and old. Again, I apologize for taking so long. Basically looking at since the first video came out, we've basically been December, January, February. So it's been about 3 months to get all these videos pumped out. I didn't expect it to be that busy this time of year, but opposite of that, it's been very busy for me. So last video was the welterweights, and I tried to crunch it down a bit. I could have talked about 50 or 60 guys. I've crunched it down to 28. Again, I'm going to give my spiel for those of you that are new to the video series, or any of my prospect series over the years for that matter. No UFC or tough experience, no Bellator experience, no Strikeforce, no Dream experience, basically no main show experience, no Ultimate Fighter. Also, any prospect I've talked about in past videos, even if he's still, unsigned and on the radar, I won't mention him again. Example, Sergey Pettis is a guy who I didn't mention in the 125-pound video because I talked about him, a few years back. So, kind of a quick overview before I get into this last video. Basically, including this video, we'll have 172 fighters total over the eight-part series. Over 35 countries, all these fighters that came from. I kind of put some numbers together, and I'd like to read those countries off pretty quickly. The front runner was USA with 43 prospects. Brazil was number 2 with 24. Then we had Ireland, Poland, Japan, England, Moldova, Estonia, Peru, South Africa, Germany, who actually seems to have a pretty impressive bunch of young prospects in Germany. Russia, Bulgaria, Canada, Sweden, Switzerland, Romania, Croatia, Australia, Ukraine, Czech Republic, France, Bosnia, New Zealand, the Philippines, again growing country with some smaller weight prospects, Scotland, Armenia, the Netherlands, Turkmenistan, Finland, Morocco, Denmark, Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, and I know there's another country I'm leaving out. It's where Liam McGurry is from, the Channel Islands, of course. So actually, 36 countries, approaching 40. Not bad for, the first time I've done this as a group. And looking at some of the guys who've already been signed. Dustin Kimura was signed, and, he looked pretty decent in his UFC debut with pretty impressive submission victory. Of course, we had Luke Barnett, the Ultimate Fighter, decent KO victory amongst others. If I was to do this again in 2014, I'd probably include a 115-pound division. It'd be a good challenge to put some names together, and of course, probably women's division. So, nonetheless, I hope everybody enjoyed it, and let's begin the last part for the welterweights. Number one I'm going to talk about is Tom Breese. 21 years old, 6'3", 170 pounds, 6-0 as professional, 1 knockout, 5 submissions. I also have him as 8-0-1 as an amateur with 5 submissions, so undefeated in 14 fights. He combined professional and amateur together. Birmingham, West Midlands in England, Team Fearless MMA. Looking at this guy's bio, very highly touted prospect in the UK. Very impressive young fighter. Recently won the Bama welterweight championship. Very aggressive, well-trained and conditioned fighter. Pressures his opponents. He's got some big takedowns, some very slick submission game. He seems to work very hard. His stand-up needs the most work. He's shown some brutal ground and pound with some nasty elbows. He's actually won the British Junior Freestyling Wrestling Championship title. There's a lot of hype behind this guy. We'll see what the future holds, but I believe with another win or two, even though the UFC is having big cutbacks, I think this guy's pretty close to be, a win or two away from getting an offer from the UFC, Bellator, and now the World Series of Fighting after they sign their big contract. We'll see these guys starting to bulk up on some young fighters too. So look to see this guy get the call in the near future. Looking at his record, he has beaten some good guys. 7-2 Warren Key, 7-5 Jack McGee, 6-2 Matt Tucker, 6-2 Oisin Shafara. Amateur went over a 5-2 M1 veteran Leon Delgado. So he's got some decent victories against some decent fighters. Check out the video section. There's a couple of pretty cool videos I'll put on them. Tom Breeze. Next guy I'm going to talk about, Michel Prazeres. 5'7". I got him listed at 175. I think he's fought at middleweight and welterweight. Pelambara, Brazil. Frenico team / Trader team. 16-0. 1 TKO. 8 submissions. Very short and stocky fighter. You know, like I said, he has fought at different weight classes. Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Showed some good takedowns, you know, to complement his jiu-jitsu. Haven't seen his striking game. You know, physically looks like a strong fighter with some big slams. You know, you would think his gas tank may be an issue, but he does have 7 decision victories. You know, biggest win. One of his biggest problems was the gaps between his activity. You know, he's been fighting. His first fight was 13 years ago. So, in the year 2000 in Valley Tudo. You know, he had a couple of fights in 2011. I think none in 2009. He fought twice in 2012. You know, so we'll see if he gets more fights. This guy can definitely get a shot. Looking at his record, he's got a big win over the highly touted 18-7 Leandro Silva, 15-6 Andre Luis, Leo Lobato, 5-3 Antonio Ribeiro, 11-6 Walter Menez, and 12-8 Jose Santos. So he's got some decent victories over winning fighters. We'll see. This might be a good candidate for the next tough two in Brazil. So have a look out for this guy. Third guy I'm going to talk about is Ryan Dickson out of Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Jocelyn MMA, tapped out Burlington. 5'10", 171, 23 years old. 5-0 as a professional, 1 knockout, 4 submissions. 3-0 as an amateur, also with 3 finishes. You know, coached by former UFC fighter Jeff Jocelyn. You know, young prospect with good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu skills. He's competed in many BJJ tournaments from across the globe, improving his boxing and his Muay Thai. Started training wrestling in high school, and he's trained, I think he's trained with the Brock University wrestling team. So this guy finishes fights. Of course, he needs to do a lot of work on his all-around game, specifically the stand-up portion. But at his age, you know, with his background, his record, and his coaching staff, you know, decent prospect. Does have some pretty good wins. He's got a win over 10-2 Brant Dewsbury. That was a big submission victory. The rest of his opponents, you know, are 12-15 combined. So, you know, he has beaten some, you know, decent fighters. So I've got to watch out for Ryan Dickson. Next guy I'm going to talk about, you know, this is a fighter that I've looked at for a few years, and you know, I am a fan of this guy, Nicolas Dalby, Copenhagen, Denmark, 5'11", 170, 28 years old, 9-0, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions, pretty extensive amateur career. You know, which a lot of fighters from that part of the world are starting to see more of that. So I believe he's had a lot, maybe in double digits of amateur fights, and you can see, you know, how good his striking is in some of those matches where he's won a lot more fights by stoppage than his professional record shows. Trains at a Rumble Sports with the likes of Bellator, Mikel Parla. Like I said, extensive MMA amateur career. You know, technical and crisp striking, solid takedown defense, and a very good ground game. Great movement on his feet, defends good, and doesn't seem to make many mistakes. Another fighter I'd love to be able to see this guy train full time. I believe he has a karate background. He does have some nasty head kicks in his arsenal. He's beaten 20-14 at Vika Trusek, 5-1 at Cody Dove, and 5-2 Glenn Sparev. 49-66 is the record of the rest of his opponents, but check out, I got some great highlight videos of him here. Check him out, Nicolas Dalby. You know, again, another guy with a win or two. I think you'll see him get the show. Next on the list, you know, was again, you know, people that know me know my background as far as including, you know, new fighters to the sport that kind of have that X factor. And when I say X factor, 9 times out of 10, I'm talking about wrestling. I've included many NCAA fighters recently, you know, i.e. Darian Caldwell. But for example, The fighter I'm going to talk about in this video is Chris Honeycutt. Again, another newbie to the sport as far as MMA is concerned, but you know, anytime you get a guy with this type of background, I believe he deserves a shot or a mention anyways. 24 years of age, 170 pounds, you know, American fighter. And I believe this guy recently had his first fight. I think he's 1-0. He was fightless when I put the video together, you know, the details of, but I think he had a recent victory. Two-time NCAA All-American for Edinburgh University. This guy is a tank. You know, list of NCAA wrestlers, though, the MMA continues to skyrocket. You know, as with most of the prospect videos, you see these types of guys. I know he's wrestled at 197 pounds. And he said his first fight was going to be a catchweight fight with the ultimate goal to be fighting at 170. He finished second at 197 pounds in 2012 in NCAAs, and he also has a two-time Eastern Wrestling League champion. He signed with Zinc Entertainment. That's the same company that signed Phil Davis, Josh Koscheck, Cain Velasquez. You know, he's done some training with Koscheck as well. You know, same Edinburgh alum. 7th all time ahead of Josh Koscheck with wins at Edinburgh at 130. Again, I believe he won his MMA debut, and I think that was the first, now that I'm looking at it, was at 180 pounds against Jesse Torres. So check out the video section. Again, Chris Honeycutt should be interesting. Number 6 on the list, Leandro Silva. 10 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 7 submission victories. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Shootbox, Makeo Gold Team. With the likes of Charles Oliveira, Jorge Patino, Bruno Diaz. You know, that might be a guy to UFC might want to look at as well. Lucas Borges. I think he's a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Sorry, a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. You know, starting to improve his stand-up, you know, with kicks, and has shown some powerful, you know, crosses. Not the most exciting fighter so far, but as he continues to grow his striking game, he can become very effective, as his ground game, kind of a lay and pray guy, has worked so far for him. He's got a big test coming up. I think it's at Predator FC in March the 9th against former UFC fighter Chris Wilson. He has got some decent victories. He avenged the only draw of his career when he defeated Gilmar Deluma, who's 21-9. He's only the second man to beat 13-2 Franklin Jensen, and he's got a win over 13-5 Viscardi Andre. So definitely a guy to check out. If he beats Wilson, I think he gets the shout somewhere, Leandro Silva. Number 7 on the list is Tyson Steel. Saskatchewan, Canada, Alliance Martial Arts Systems. 26, 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, 10-1, 2 TKO, 7 submissions. Steel kind of came out of nowhere, and he became an instant fan of his when he had his victory over Gregor Gracie. This guy worked the oil rigs in Western Canada, and I think he started training, you know, during post-secondary education training in Jiu-Jitsu, and then he was hooked. You know, the Gracie fight, he showed great perseverance, submission defense, good stamina, and really good ground and pound. You know, I was very impressed. He was in a bad position, but he showed maturity. He escaped that position, and he laid a solid beating on Gracie, you know, to take the win. And looking at that record of his, you know, he's beaten good guys. Like I mentioned, Gregor Gracie was now 7-3. Jarrett Mike was 6-2. 4-1 Ben Stewart. 6-3 Kelly Jervis. 6-2 Gary Walsh. And 11-6 Cody Grant. So he's beaten winning fighters. Check out the video section. You know, I certainly hope we see more of Tyson Steel. Next on the list, you know, the first of I think 3 Germany fighters I'm going to talk about. You know, from doing some research here, you know, Germany does have a ton of great young fighters, especially in the welterweight division. You know, there's a lot of guys I'm not going to mention that I could have. First guy is David Zawada, 6 feet, 170, 22 years of age, 7-0, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions, Dusseldorf, Germany, Pride Gym, Dusseldorf. You know, pretty good sized camp. Stand-up fighter, kickboxing experience. He showed some crisp stand-up, KO power. Good work from the clinch, and I believe he's the brother of Martin Zawada, who's a well-known German MMA fighter. He doesn't Didn't look tremendous in his last fight, but he got the win. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu are hopefully areas which he will improve to complement his striking game. He's got a big fight on April the 13th against Sebastian Rich, which will be a big test for him. I guess his biggest win would be against 3-1 Florian Zabek. Low-level competition, but he's just 22, and with a bit of his background, he becomes an interesting prospect. So check out some videos, David Zawada. Number 9 on the list, Abusupiyan Magomedov. Duran, Germany, 6'2", 170, 22 years of age, 8-0, 4 knockouts, 1 submission, Combat Club Cologne. Like Ruben Crawford, great German welterweight prospect. Solid striking. In his last fight, he pulled off a pretty impressive victory. I was on hold including because I wasn't sure how his last fight was going to go. But he had a very, very big victory. It appears he has a bit of a wrestling background. I mean, it's hard to find information, but it says a Chechen background wrestling. So I'm intrigued to see more about this stuff. I'm just looking up now. His last victory, yes, was against Jesse Ayara, who's a very talented, another German prospect fighter, who's now 9-3. But that was a big win for him. He's also defeated 9-7 David Roseman. This guy's got some decent striking. If he does have that wrestling background, makes him a very, very talented prospect. The rest of his competition has been low level, but with his age, his background, and his record, I wanted to mention this guy. Check out some highlights of him. Abusupiyan Magomedov. Number 10 is Luis Gonzales, Turlock, California, USA. Team Voodoo. 5'10", 170, 25 years of age. 7-0 as a professional, 2 knockouts, 5 submissions. I have him at 3-0 as an amateur. Big wrestling background. I think he started at the age of 5 or 6. Turlock High School, where he won back-to-back state championships, both as a junior and a senior. Started training MMA at the age 19, so he's 6 years into it. Wrestled at Palomar, Jason, San Marcos, where he won the JC State Championships title. Also had some boxing at the Pelly Boxing Club under Jeff Tovar. Again, another X-Factor fighter with the wrestling background. 6 years of training in MMA, just 25. Good boxing, training camps. He may still yet get a shot. He's beaten 8-3 Bobby Stack, 6-4 Daniel Price, 10-3 Justin Bresman. So again, a fighter that's off to a good start with this wrestling background. Luis Gonzales, a guy I wanted to mention. And again, I sound like a broken record, but make sure you guys check out the video section to see highlights of these guys. Number 11 is Sam Boult, 6 feet, 170, 28 years of age. Fighting out of England at 6-0 as professional, 1 TKO, 4 submissions. At amateur, I got him at 13-1 with 10 submissions. Trains at multiple places: Sheffield, Nottingham, or Kirby and Ashfield. Submission style fighter. He finishes fights, most professional amateur, by a variety of different finishes, anything from flying triangle choke to triangle arm choke, rear naked choke, arm bars, TKOs. This guy finishes fights, amateur fights dating back to 2007, maybe earlier. The stand-up does need a lot of work. I think his only loss in his amateur career was to Scott Askin, who's a 9-0, 6'3" monster middleweight prospect, who I mentioned. His record, he does have some, decent victories. He beat 6-1 Alan Johnson, who has a win over tough veteran Aaron Wilkinson. He's got a victory by flying triangle choke. I think the rest of his opponents are 3-9 combined. He does have an amateur win over Jack Grant. Jack Grant was a 13-2 amateur prospect, a highly touted fighter. Check out the videos, Sam Boult. And again, I apologize I'm trying to whip through these very quickly, because it is, there is a lot of fighters I want to talk about, and also I'm really stretched out for time, so I am going to kind of cruise through this. I apologize for that. But number 12 is Walter Gahadza, fighting out of England, Sure Grip and Valley Tudo MMA, 6 feet, 170, 24 years of age, 10-0, 4 knockouts, 5 submissions, 9 first-round stoppages. Training with the likes of Staff Economo, Ivan Soretti, Lee Werzak. Showing power, well-rounded skills, striking and KO power, ground and pound, decent submission. He's got one hard, gutsy decision win, and this guy was kind of ignored in the past because his first opposition was very weak, but in the last year he's beaten some credible guys. Marvin Garcia, 24-15, that was an impressive victory. He's also beaten 11-3 Paul Cook, and Darius Carfus, who was 8-8. The rest of his opponents were 3-40 as a professional, so that's why he was kind of off the radar. Check out the highlights, see what you think. There's not a lot of video on him. Walter Gahadza, very confident himself. Number 13 is a guy I kind of went back and forth on. I decided to include him. He is a little older, but because of how high level his jiu-jitsu is, I decided to. Braulio Estima, Pacific Manimo, Brazil, 6'3", 170, 32, 1-0-1 submission, Black Stallions, Jaco Hybrid Training Center, huge welterweight. Third degree black belt at BJJ under Huston Gracie Jr., Carlos Gracie Jr., I think in 04, respected as one of the top BJJ practitioners in the world. I think he got a record. He submitted 7 people in a total of 5 minutes and 24 seconds at the 2003 Pan Am Championships. He's got a helicopter armbar win in 2003 Brazilian versus USA competition. 2009 ADCC 88 kilogram and absolute champ. 2011 ADC submission wrestling world champion, super fight champ, absolute world champ 2002 and 6, world champion 04, 06 and 09. Grand Slam Capital Challenge Jordan in 08, 2008 heavyweight and absolute champion. Pan American champions in 99, 01, 02, 03, 06. Absolute Pan Am in 03. No Gi champ in 08. European champ 07, 09, 11. Absolute European champ 07, 09, 11. Champion and international team 03 and 07. Champion Challenge USA versus Brazil in 03. First place in the World Championships in 01. Multiple fights in MMA were cancelled. He was supposed to fight Rick Hahn in China fights, and Hahn pulled out. Apparently, very big, like I said, welterweight. Striking much to be improved, very much desired to be improved. But in his first fight, he beat 5-4 professional, 6-2 amateur players who had a victory over Phil Baroni. So not a bad win for him. Check out his fight against Holland, and also there's some jiu-jitsu highlights in there. I don't know how much more we're going to see of him. He has said he's interested in continuing to pursue MMA. If so, decent guy to watch out for. Just really needs to improve that stand-up game. Number 14 on the list is the guy I've been watching recently. I kind of went back and forth, but I said, this is the final video. I'm going to include some guys that are kind of borderline. Cathal Pendred, Dublin, Ireland, SBG Ireland, with the likes of newly signed Conor McGregor, Tom McGuire, Patrick Allahan, John Michael Shield, to name a few. 6'1", 171, 11-2 with 5 knockouts. Big welterweight. Recent noise with some big name wins in his last couple of fights. Boston born to Irish parents, lived most of his life in Ireland, also known as one of the best as far as top of the food chain in Ireland welterweights are concerned. One-time rugby player turned MMA fighter. Has some potential, some power, some ground and pound, decent wrestling and submission defense. He's grown as a fighter, and stand up. The whole thing needs some work, but he has the size, strength, and skill to improve. Big tough upcoming fight with Gael Grimald, who's a really strong fighter. Has fought for M1. He's got a big win over the very dangerous Bruno Carvalho, who's 14-6, and was once a highly touted prospect. He's also beaten UFC veteran David Biekiden, Nicholas Mazouk, who's 9-2 and 8-5, Jamie Roger, 10-4, Merlin Mahalan. Some setbacks in his career with a couple of losses, but with his recent wins and his skill set, I wanted to mention him, and I think with a win or two, you will see this guy get the call. Number 15 is Brandon Becker, 5'9", 170, 28 years of age. 5-0, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions. Bloomington, Indiana, USA. Hoosier MMA. Wrestling since I think the age of 4 or 5. big university wrestling background, 3-time All-American at Indiana. Also won a state championship, wrestled Kingsway Regional High School. Obviously improving jiu-jitsu. You know, his stand-up needs to be worked on, but his wrestling is key. He's shown the ability to finish fighters, stopping 4 of his 5 opponents. You know, at least one amateur fight I know of. Again, a lot of improving to do, and you know, he kind of squeaked out a victory. I think it was his last fight. Taking a look at his record, you know, 29 and 24. Cendric Marks was the guy he beat, but taking a look at Marks' record, you know, Bellator veteran who's defeated John Kirk and John Kirk, who was a Bellator vet, and UFC vet Josh Haynes. You know, so that was a fairly decent win for him. And his split division win was over Brian Nelson, who was only 3-3, but Nelson has a TKO win over recent tough winner Colton Smith. So, you know, Brandon Becker, because of his wrestling background, of course he's going to get the nod. Check him out. Number 16, again, another guy that was kind of borderline, but I decided to include him. Dwyane Hinds, 5'11", 170, 29 years of age. Diego Martin, Trinidad and Tobago. He's listed as 8-0, 2 knockouts, 5 submissions. I believe he's 8-1. I can't prove for sure. I know I've seen video of him losing a fight, and I'm not convinced. I shouldn't say that I think it's professional. I don't have the exact proof. It may be an amateur fight, but I believe he lost his first professional fight. Born in Diego Martin, Trinidad, moved to the U.S. at age 3. Greco-Roman wrestling at 14. District championships, all New Jersey All-Star team by his senior years. He went on to success as a collegian. After university, he returned home and started training judo. He captured the Trinidad and Tobago National Championship as just a green belt. Now training boxing, Krav Maga, which is a non-competitive form of fighting, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. You know, trying to become a true martial artist. Again, talking about the Krav Maga, if nobody knows about it, it's a self-defense system developed in Israel. It includes boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, grappling, kind of a counter-attack sport. 2-time judo champ. And also, you know, a weird stat I found, and again, if I'm incorrect in this, I'm sorry, but I'm tight for time, but I also had him listed as a national boxing champion, so that's something that caught me off guard. And gold at the Pan American Games and Sambo Championships, so interesting. You know, guy needs to do a lot of improving. Looking at his record, you know, he beat UFC veteran Gideon Ray. Of course, Ray is, you know, of course, I don't know if he ever was a UFC material. 17-15, and he only defeated him by split decision, but nonetheless, it was a nice victory. He's beat middleweight fighter Henry Padip, who's 5-4, 8-6 Luke Taylor, and 4-2 Cleon Bardwell. So he's beaten some decent guys with winning records. Guy to check out, Dwyane Hinds. You know, also too, we get a guy from a unique country I like mentioning. Number 17, again, I'm going to bruise to this guy quick. William Marcial, 170, just 21 years of age, 6-0, 5 knockouts, 1 submission. Fighting out of Brazil at Pejor. And don't know a lot about this guy. He has some kickboxing experience. All of his fights have been finished early. I think in the first round, the longest was 2 minutes and 40 seconds, but that was a second round victory. So 5 first round stoppages. Does seem to have some power and some big ground and pound. Comfortable on his feet. You know, big question mark is about his ground game. He spent most of the first round against Gabriel Monkey on his back in defensive mode. But he's shown some good clinch work, some good takedowns from the clinch, you know, in his fight against Lucas. At only 21, you know, this guy has lots of hold, but because he's 6-0 and because of his speed and athleticism, I wanted to give him the nod. Again, his victories, key victories, he's beat 3-3 Paulo Silva, and his biggest one was over 5-4 Gabriel Monkey. So check out the highlights. Number 18, Tyler Manawaroa, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, integrated MMA with Kyle Noak, Adrian Pang, Michael Montera, you know, who's also got to watch at 135. 6'1", 169, just 18 years of age, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. MMA debut at just 16 years of age. Rumored to be moving up to middleweight. Not a lot of footage on Tyler. You know, appears to have a good ground game with improving takedowns. He's showing some decent ground and pound and a good submission game. Of course, needs major improvement on his feet, but he's only 18. He's 8-0. So of course he's going to get the nod. Besides Ben Sterling and Matthew Frinsko, who are both 2-1. He's beaten both of those guys, but the rest of his opponents are 9-33. But at 18 years of age, what do you expect? I'm going to give him the nod. Tyler Manawaroa, guy to watch out for. The next guy I'm going to talk about again very quickly is the guy that I wasn't going to include on the list because of a recent loss, but his last victory was over an 11-0 fighter with a KO artist. So I decided to include him. Santiago Ponzinibbio, 26 years old, 170. De Plata, Argentina. Attack Duplois, the team he trains at him, 18-1, 10 knockouts, 6 submissions. Trained with the likes of Ivan Jorge, Nazarene Magaleri, Thiago Tavares, Ricardo Trellini. Again, I mentioned his last victory was against an 11-0 fighter who was a knockout artist. He submitted him. You know, I don't know a lot about this guy. Most of his wins, this guy finishes fights again. Not only has he beaten most of his guys by submission or knockout, or TKO, he's done it by ground and pound submission, and also has some head kick KOs. So he's dangerous on the feet as well. A lot of improvement he's got to do. If he wants to hang out with the big boys, he's got to work on the stand-up game, his takedown defense. Again, looking at his record, big win over 12-1 Clayton Duarte, who has 11 of those 12 wins by knockout. 10-8 William Diaz, and 9-7 Yuri Fraga. A scary stat is the rest of his opponents are combined 10-47. So that's a very, shows you he's fought a lot of cans. But you know, this recent victory, I said, why not? Let's include him. And also, the Argentina background makes him unique. Got to watch out for it. Number 20 is a very interesting and dangerous striker who is entertaining to watch. Khalid Ismail, Charwell, England, 5'8", 170, 32 years of age, a little bit older, 3-0, 3 knockouts off first round. Longest was 1 minute and 24 seconds. The owner, I think, of LDG Fitness USB Center, founded in 06, and he's now got a gym in Ranford. So he's got a huge karate background, a kickboxing background, multiple titles including the Waco 2005, 07, and 08 championships, as well as the British heavyweight champion, Bosma British champion 98 to 2001. Started karate at 5 and started kickboxing, then BJJ 2000, followed by Olympic freestyle in 2001. He had a huge injury in training in 2011 when he tore one of his biceps clean off, so that kind of put a halt on things for him. Very, very explosive striker, kicks and punches, big ground and pound, very quick, crisp, and dangerous with his striking. Haven't seen a lot of other facets of his game, but he is definitely a guy to watch out for standing up. And his background in jiu-jitsu with freestyle wrestling make him an interesting guy. His record against his opponent's records are combined 9-13. But please do check with the video section of not only his fights, but there's also a ton of videos on his career, his camps, that kind of stuff, his gym. Check him out, Khalid Ismail. 21, another guy that you could include or not include because of his record, but like his brother, he's just such a dangerous striker. I want to include him. Chidi Njokuani, 6'3", 170, 24 years of age, an 80.5 inch reach. Las Vegas, Nevada, 9-3, 7 knockouts, 1 submissions. Janera Muay Thai, 1 kick gym. Sergio Pana, BJJ, with the likes of David Rickles, Ryan Benoit, Stephen Bork, Steve Cantwell. Younger brother of Anthony, devastating Muay Thai, striking with power, precision, both kicking and punching. Professional Muay Thai fighter like his brother, struggles with the ground game, but very, very dangerous. You have to get close to give this guy problems. His clinch work is devastating. He can blast you with his knee. Currently on a 4-fight win streak. Another win or two for sure. This guy's going to get a shot. He's learned from some of those losses, I believe, and that X factor of striking. He's an exciting guy to watch. He's beaten some quality guys. 8-3 Phil Day, 6-3 Bobby Cooper, 10-5 Johnny Reed, 6-3 Jonathan Harris, 5-1 Alan Juwan. He had some setbacks in his career. You know, he lost to Jorge Lopez and Brandon Thatch. Check out the highlights. You will not be disappointed. Chidi Njokuani. Hopefully we'll see this guy get a shot, and I believe we will see him get a shot. So, number 22, I may take some heat for this, but I'm willing to do it. He's a well-known fighter, fought in M1 for years, champion, whatnot. I want to see this guy fight in North America. Rashid Magomedov. Russia and Russian fighters have been very dominant lately. You know, just look at Bellator. 5'9", 170, 28 years of age. Reuck, which is a good-sized camp with some talented fighters. 15-1, 7 knockouts, 1 submission. There's my M1 rant. There are a lot of guys. M1 puts on a ton of fights. Unfortunately, we don't get to see a lot of their top guys, you know, fight other top guys. So hopefully we'll see him break free. Like I mentioned, M1 welterweight champ. A lot of casual and some hardcore fans. Like, there's a lot of UFC hardcore fans. And outside of the UFC, they don't know a lot about other sports, maybe a little bit about Bellator, but, you know, a lot of casual fans don't know about this guy. This guy has a boxing background. I thought he had a Samuel background, but he doesn't. Very, very hard to submit. His only loss that I can find was by split decision. Good striker with power. He showed some decent ground and pound, and, you know, what appears to be decent wrestling. Hand-to-hand combat, national Russian champion. He's beat some very good fighters. 18-4 Alexander Yakovlev, 10-4 Yosibiev and Otto, 7-3 Mikel Cortez. He's beat 22-6 Igor Raju. He's got a big KO win over Dan Hope, who's 9-5. 11-5 Alexei Nazarov. 20-2 Shamil Zamarov. 19-5 Magomed Krasgulov. Bellator fighter, of course. This guy can fight definitely in Bellator or the UFC. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't know if he'll be successful, but some of the guys he's beaten have had great success. You know, and I'd like to see him get a shot anyways. Rashid Magomedov. The next guy on the list. Again, another guy I kind of went back and forth. There's so many guys I could have included, but again, like I mentioned, if you're listed last year on Bloody Elbows list, I didn't include you. I didn't include any, you know, mainstream Sherdog guys. So Danny Roberts, 25, 6 feet, 170, 7-1, 3 knockouts, 3 submissions. Liverpool, England. Next generation MMA, good sized camp. You know, boxing background. I think he was 24-3 as an amateur boxer, 5-0 as a professional boxer. Brutal knees, good ground and pound. Surprisingly good jiu-jitsu. He needs to desperately improve his wrestling, though, if he wants to hang with the big boys. Very young and athletic. Like I said, I wasn't going to include him because of his recent loss to middleweight/light heavyweight Moldovan prospect Pavel Dontre, but he defeated Jack Mason, who's a very well-known 22-11 fighter with a surprise submission victory, and he's got some decent highlights, so I want to include him. Danny Roberts. Number 24 on the list. I just switched my page here. Warren de Roos. Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape, South Africa, 5'11", 170, 5-0, 3 knockouts, 2 submission. London shoot fighter with Carlos Famola, James Zikic, James Thompson, John Hathaway, etc., etc. Karate practitioner, teacher. He's got a background, entertaining fighter that has a solid mix with punching, kicking, knees, from all different angles, which is impressive. He fights from both stances, southpaw and orthodox. You know, which seems to be the norm for karate fighters lately. You look at Anthony Pettis, showing some good takedown defense to go along with some quality striking. Good ground and pound, good jiu-jitsu, good slams, good clinch work. Throws some nice knees. He uses the cage well, and he's got some brutal elbows trying to mount. He's beaten 5-4 Charlie Larry. The rest of his opponents are 7-18, so very weak competition, but definitely a guy that I would like to see some more of. He is 31. He's getting up there. Warren de Roos. 25 is James Moontasri. I kind of went back and forth on whether I was going to include him or not, but, you know, because of a little bit of a history on him, I decided to. 5'10", 170, 25 years old, 4-0, 1 knockout, 1 submission. OP, Franca, USA, UFC Gym, and Black House. Anderson Silva, of course, in Black House, the Nogueiras, Glover Teixeira, Machida, Rafael Dos Anjos, Jay-Z, etc., etc. Taekwondo background, two-time USA National Taekwondo champion, 2007 Pan Am Games silver medalist, USA Taekwondo Athlete of the Year. Showed some good wrestling and takedowns and good slams to go along with his background. Decent hands and a good gas tank. He's a smaller welterweight, maybe better for 155. I'm not sure if I would call this guy elite, but he had 2 recent wins over Joshua Alves, who was only 11-8, but he's a very solid fighter. Alves recently, don't let that record fool you. He's got 8 victories by KO, and he won 9 of his last 10 fights, and he knocked out Johnny Sinovos, who was the King of the Cage welterweight champ, I believe. So they were 2 significant wins from Moontasri. Check him out. Hopefully we see this guy fight again against some tough competition. 26th on the list, Sergey Khandozhko. Moscow, Russia, 6'1", 170, just 20 years of age, 9-0, 5 knockouts, 3 submissions. Again, Russia has a growing base of highly talented, unproven fighters. Just 20 years of age, this guy is showing some KO power, some quick striking, decent jiu-jitsu, and takedown defense. His grappling's not bad. Probably better suited for Bellator's welterweight division, though. Of course, some of the high-level wrestlers in the UFC will give this guy probably big problems. But he's only 20. He's got a big KO win over 12-4 Victor Sopchak. The rest of his opponents are combined 4-15. But with his age, his record, his finishing percentage, I want to include him. Sergey Prazeres, and apologize for the mispronunciation. Number 27, twin brother of the other Dimitrov we talked about. This guy is Rosen Dimitrov. 5'9", 170, 30 years of age, Bulgarian fighter, Combat Sambo Club, of course, with his twin brother Roman. 19-2, 4 knockouts, 12 submissions. It's a guy that a lot of people know of and will probably question some of his competition, but he's been around a long time. He's 19-2, and I'd like to see him get a shot. Sambo background, like his brother, he's been around a long time. He deserves a shot. Gold medal in the 2007 World Sambo Championships in the 82 kg class. Gold at the European Sambo Championships in 2008 at the 82 kg. Silver in 08 at the World Sambo Championships in the 82 kg. He uses his Sambo background to effectively control his opponents. He's got some big submission victories in MMA. Fairly aggressive. He started his career at 4-2. He's won his last 15 fights. 20-16. Avika Trusek. 8-8. Ivanov. He's beaten 23-8. Dristev, Ribeiro. 13-11. Lombard, Wojciev, and 10-5. Mirko Savato, which is a nice win, because Savato has fought Torotron to a draw, and he's the only man to beat 11-1 Timo Sohonen. So he's got some nice victories against some good fighters. He has beaten some weak opponents, though, and some mismatches, I will admit. Check out the video section, Rosen Dimitrov. The last fighter I'm going to talk about, this guy recently dropped to lightweight, but he was included in the video, so I'm going to keep him here. I got him listed at 6 feet, 170, 23 years of age. Fighting out of Kolov, Germany. Ruben Crawford. 13-2, 3 knockouts, 7 submissions. Actually, I think now it's 4 knockouts, 7 submissions. Combo Club, again, Khalid. Trained since age 18. I think he's moved to lightweight. But most of his fights have been at welterweight and a couple at middleweight. Another example of a young, talented fighter out of Germany. They have so many. Very slick submission game. Both on top and can work from the bottom. No problem working off his back. He does have a couple of recent kickboxing matches, at least one for sure. You can check it here on YouTube. Striking does need a lot of improvement, but he does throw punches with both hands, and he kicks. He does use the leg kick, and he's got some decent footwork. Showing some good knees from the clinch. And this guy has the ability to finish fights by submission and strikes, and he's never been finished. He's only lost to really experienced guys, and he's so young and, you know, talented. He's got a huge test coming up against Daniel Whitecoat, 38 fighter, was very well known in Europe, very well known. I think he's a champion in M1. So should be a great fight to watch and a great test for him. And I believe it's going to be at lightweight. He's beaten 11-5 Dwayne Van Hulliford, 7-2 Rafael Buchanka, 5-1 Matua Straychik, and 9-2 Rosen Dimitrov. I think he also beat 9-2 Jesse Yara, so that's another significant victory for him. Check out the video section on Ruben Crawford. Definitely a guy, well, for sure if he beats Whitecoat, we'll see him. So that does it for the 2013 MMA Prospects 8-part series. You know, it was great putting these videos together. Very tough to get it done time-wise, though, I must admit. First of all, like I mentioned, you know, 36 countries, 172 fighters. Be interesting to see how many will get signed. I think the World Series of Fighting will eat up a lot of these guys, as well as Bellator, and some will go to the UFC. You know, although the UFC is trying to downsize, I think they're just cleaning up a bit. I think you'll still see them hiring new guys. And again, you know, it would be nice if I was to do this again in the future, which I'm not sure I will because it's so time consuming, but I'd like to try the 115-pound division and the women's division. You know, and last of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's watched the videos and left comments. It's brought up great conversation. And, you know, anything you guys want to talk about MMA, leave me a message or comment on the video. And, you know, at my first chance, I will get back to you. And again, I'd just like to thank people for getting involved. And, you know, I certainly like talking MMA, and I appreciate everybody's comments and opinions. Whether they're pro or against them, everybody's entitled to their opinions, and, you know, that's kind of the greatness about this sport is I don't think anybody can really master it as far as you know, being an expert, total expert, because it's changing so much, and there's so many good fighters out there. So I mean, you look at some guys on YouTube do great prediction videos. They back up what they're saying. You know, you can watch their videos. You know, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can have an off night on a fight card and go 1-9 on a fight card, or 3-7 on a fight card, but still, you know, you can still tell this guy has solid knowledge. But the sport is so unpredictable. So for me, it's kind of nice doing these prospect videos because, you know, looking back 5 or 6 years ago, some guys are still just getting in there. It's kind of neat to see some of these guys start from the bottom and work their way up. So nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you know, let me know if you are interested in me putting something together next year in 2000. And again, we could make it a 10-part series if I have the time and if you guys want to see it. So again, thanks for watching,
and hopefully we hear from you.